What if I told you that the bag of potting soil sitting in your garage right now could be completely worthless? I'm Nick Federoff, and as the first radio and television personality inducted into the Green Industry Hall of Fame, I've seen thousands of gardeners make this costly mistake while on landscape consultations. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal what most landscapers and gardeners don't realize. Potting soils actually have an expiration date, and using old potting soil could be sabotaging your plants without you even knowing it. But first, if you want more money-saving garden secrets like this, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss out on tips that actually work. Now, let's talk about what happens when potting soil goes bad as we garden on the radio. Did you know that potting mixes have a lifespan? You know, when you go to your local nursery or garden center and you buy a bag of potting soil, or it could even be compost, you want to use it as quickly as possible. Technically speaking, that's usually the prior years or the most recent stuff that they have is that they've taken it and they've put it in the bags, you're buying it, and then you put it in. Of course, there's a composting process that happens and so and all that. But once they put it in that bag there and you take it home, it's interesting. Have you ever opened up a old bag of potting soil and realized that it is super dry? I mean, we're talking ridiculously dry. You open it up and the dust flies out of it. The dust just comes out of it and you get blasted in the face. That's old potting soil. And that means that it's become hydrophobic. And hydrophobic means that it is holding on, that it's basically dry, and it's really hard to get it wet again. Hydro meaning water, phobic meaning afraid. So it's afraid of the water. I just made that up. So the worst hydrophobic organic material that you can get your hands on happens to be peat moss. Peat moss is ridiculous to try to get it wet. Now, today's peat moss, what they do is that they'll spray it with something that'll help retain the moisture. But even that stuff has a lifespan to it, and after a couple of times of drying, it doesn't work any longer. It gets really, really dry. It beads up on there, and it's just not going to happen. Now, there are some compost, there's some potting soils that have in your potting mixes. And you got to remember, when I say a potting soil and a potting mix, it doesn't mean that there's any soil inside of it. A lot of times it's everything but soil. They may have some sand, but they'll have particles in there that you can actually grow the things. And we're talking like compost and fir bark and perlite and vermiculite and those types of properties. But still, those organic materials can dry out and become very, very hydrophobic. Now, coconut coir, Coir, that right there is something that will get wet easier than your peat moss will. So that's a good thing. Now, what's really fascinating is that some of the bags that you buy, actually have the directions on there. They'll have the ingredients, I mean. And you can see what ingredients on there. And if you see something like peat moss on there, you might be like, oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. I heard about this stuff. I don't think I'm going to do it. But the best thing is to do is not to overbuy. Hands down, that's the best thing to do. When you overbuy, then and you're not going to use the stuff, you're just going to be wasting it. So it's better to, at the end of a season, give it to somebody who you know is going to use it, take it, use it as part of your compost, or sit there and just keep it wet. I mean, think about that for a second. You can't keep it wet. Now, if you want to store this stuff, because you have to look at the bags. I don't know if you notice this or not, but on all your potting mixes, they have tiny holes. And those little tiny holes are for the drainage of the moisture that's inside there. Because when they bring it to you and they bag it with moisture. And then the plastic bag holds it for a certain period of time. But because those holes are there, that's how it dries out. So if you want to keep it, you got to put it in airtight containers. The problem with doing this is that it's moist. And if it's moist, we're going to have mold. And if we have mold, there's beneficial mold and there's non-beneficial mold. I don't want to be the recipient on that. I'll tell you that much. Because we do have something called leaf mold, which is actually good for our plants. But this compost mold, not good for our plants. So it's better just to get rid of it. Or, like I said, if it's going to dry, no, not if it's going to dry out, you keep it in an airtight container, then possibly you can keep it until the next year. And it's pretty much just that simple.